We're back with another reaction to one of WitheredCircle's most controversial theories, saying that they have solved FNAF 2's biggest piece of lore that has been a mystery ever since the game came out. And that is whether or not there were 2 missing children's incidents or if there was 1. And what this is the difference between 5 missing kids or 10 missing kids. So there's a lot of kids at stake here. But WitheredCircle has said that they finally solved it, but we will be the judge of that. So without further ado, let's get into another WitheredCircle theory.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has been out for over 11 years now, with a movie adaptation coming in a few months. But one of the biggest questions theorists have about the game has gone unanswered for over a decade by now. Was there really another set of murders committed by William Afton in 1987?
I'm in the middle of doing my fast facts for FNAF 2 right now, and it's one of the ones where I'm kind of fighting with, so I'm hoping WitheredCircle has an explanation that I could probably draw from in my upcoming video.
We all know about the missing children incident in 1985, and how the 5 kids that Afton kidnapped ended up possessing the original animatronics. But what if there were more? This question has been plaguing the community since almost the very beginning, and I think I found a clue hidden deep in the source code of FNAF 2 that has the potential to solve everything we didn't know about this game. I'm WitheredCircle, and this is how FNAF 2 source code answers its biggest lore mystery.
Oh good.
I'm sure some of you are confused, so let me explain what I'm talking about. In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, we're obviously introduced to the new cast of toy animatronics alongside the original animatronics, who are now withered. These new toys are stated to have superior technology to their original counterparts, with facial recognition software installed by Fazbear Entertainment.
Fazbear Entertainment is committed to family fun and above all, they've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility, they even let them walk around during the day. Isn't that neat? But most importantly, they're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away. Heck, we should be paying them to guard you.
But right away, theorists noticed that the toys were off. Looking at several camera renders from FNAF 2, you could see the empty sockets and silver eyes that the possessed FNAF 1 animatronics have, and we learned in the Silver Eyes novel that these eyes are indicative of possession. But despite that, many people still think the toy animatronics aren't possessed and are instead fully powered by AI.
I'm one of them, WitheredCircle, and I will die on that hill. This is the face of a man who did in fact die on that hill. Not only did he die on that hill, but he did it in such a way that was profoundly embarrassing.
One key piece of evidence that many theorists use for the toys being possessed is the Save Them minigame from FNAF 2. For context, FNAF 2 has 4 death minigames that can be played after getting jump scared, and one of them is Save Them, which has the player, Withered Freddy, walk around the FNAF 2 location after the puppet, as the corpses of several children are scattered across the building. Rarely, the purple guy, William Afton, will attack the player and end the minigame early, but I'm sure you all know this. You probably also know that you should subscribe, but suit yourself.
Guys, haven't subscribed to WitheredCircle, do so!
This incident is called the DCI by theorists, standing for Dead Children Incident. This parallels the MCI, or Missing Children Incident, which is the name given to the 1985 murders by fans. I'll use these names from now on so I don't have to say the set of dead kids from FNAF 2.
Okay, I like this. So instead of saying 2 MCIs, one is DCI, that's specifically shown in FNAF 2. The other one's MCI, which is general knowledge that we know about from FNAF 1. Okay.
Or the missing kids from 1985. Every time I bring these kids up, because I'll be bringing them up like every sentence. So please just remember them. But while a lot of theorists agreed that this was a new set of dead kids that ended up possessing the toys, many disagreed and proposed a different option. That these were the corpses of the MCI kids from the withered animatronics. Think about it. We know that in FNAF 2, Fazbear Entertainment rebuilt the withered animatronics. This
is where it gets a little weird.
And if they had disassembled them, surely they'd find the corpses of the MCI still stuck inside them, right? So what if Save Them is showing William disassembling the withered animatronics and extracting the MCI kids out of them?
Okay, no. Something that I didn't mention in my FNAF 1 Fast Facts video was there was a specific part, a newspaper clipping, that said that one of the customers, one of the parents, saw that there were blood and mucus kind of around the eyes, and they contacted police. Typically, if police show up, right, and they found dead bodies in the animatronics, you would definitely see a news headline about that. Or the police did show up and they found the bodies, and Fazbear Entertainment, being the corrupt corporate entity that it is, paid off the cops and said, look, let's just get rid of the bodies because we don't want to be tied to this in any way, shape, or form, because that is not good for our public relations. In short, no, I don't think the bodies stayed in the animatronics the entire time. I think they were disposed of, but the souls definitely remained.
Explaining why their bodies are scattered across the location. Many theorists latched onto this idea instantly, and still believe it to this day. In fact, the debate over whether or not this is a new set of killings done by William has been a major debate in the fandom for ages, as it's vital to understanding what happened to the toys after FNAF 2. But anyway, back to Save Them.
It's a crucial
the idea that
part
these are MCI bodies isn't just unlikely, it's actually impossible. Very, very impossible, in fact. Let me explain.
Why? Tell us why.
While walking through the map, we can find multiple bloodstains on the floor. Fresh, bright red bloodstains. These bloodstains aren't present in the FNAF 2 camera map, meaning they probably aren't blobs of tomato sauce scattered decoratively across the floor, but who knows.
That's unfortunate. I thought it was tomato sauce.
And think about the name of the minigame itself, the letters the puppet gives you, SAVETHEM. The puppet, who you're following throughout the minigame, wants you to save a group of people. But when Purple Guy appears in the party room, he makes it very clear that you can't. You can't save them. This minigame is about the puppet trying to convince you, Withered Freddy, to save a group of dead kids killed by William. We know these lines are spoken by the puppet thanks to the rest of the minigames in FNAF 2 and the FNAF movie. Every FNAF 2 minigame involving the puppet has this robotic text-to-speech shouting out the letters in the background. Only Foxy Go Go Go, the only minigame missing the puppet, doesn't have them. At the end of the FNAF movie, we get these same letters spelling out "Come Find Me" as the puppet's theme, My Grandfather's Clock, plays in the background.
Yeah, this was a promotional stuff for the FNAF 2
movie. The FNAF movie 2 trailer also shows that the puppet is using a toy called the Fast Talker to spell out these letters.
Okay, I see where he's going with this. I'm all for it. You can't use evidence from a movie that hasn't even come out yet. All right. Because it's unconfirmed, and honestly, it's going to be really silly once everyone watches the movie, and if for whatever reason the person speaking through that device is not the puppet, it just completely disproves the entire point you're trying to make. So don't base evidence on things that are not confirmed. You need the fast facts, okay? But I see where you're going with it. Let's keep going.
Anyway, back to the bodies we find in this minigame. The Save Them text can't be referring to the MCI because they've already been quote-unquote saved. Another FNAF 2 minigame, Give Gifts Give Life, shows the puppet saving the MCI kids from death and allowing them to come back to life by possessing the animatronics. In the puppet's eyes, the MCI kids are accounted for, which is why she summons Withered Freddy, who is possessed by the soul of a missing kid called Gabriel, to try and save this new set of dead kids. So, we've got a set of dead kids, bloodstains on the floor implying
you can also tell, like, just by the art here, the eyes are glowing white. And honestly, this is a detail that Scott put in, showing you that, yes, there is something behind these eyes, as in, like, they're haunted. It seems like a really weird design choice, and this game is all about design choices.
Fresh kill, William telling Withered Freddy that these kids cannot be saved, and the puppet's still trying to save them. We've known about all of this information for a while already, but there's one detail that many theorists overlook over and over again, and that barely anyone in the modern theorizing space ever brings up.
Oh.
The FNAF 2 source code. The FNAF game
probably because half the people don't even know how to access the source code or wouldn't even try to begin with.
Game source codes have always been interesting places to hunt for lore. Most of the games have interesting file names that reveal things about the story, and FNAF 2 is no different, because if you go into the files for the Save Them minigame, you'll find the file names for each and every sprite used in the game.
Holy, okay, hold on, let me get a clear picture of this. Man, I thought this would be a fun, fast theory to react to, but there's a lot of content packed into this. Okay, dead Bonnie, dead Chica, he was here. Phantom down? What? Okay, I wonder what the lore is.
For each and every sprite used in the game. For example, Purple Guy's sprite is just called Man, debunking William is a woman theory. Mango's sprite is
Was that ever a theory? Oh my gosh.
He was here, likely referring to William having visited Kid's Cove, as suggested by the corpse next to the animatronic. And finally, every single dead child has the same file name. You can't. Perfectly identical to what William says after jumping Freddy Fazbear. But what does this mean?
Sure.
Well, it confirms without a shadow of a doubt that the individuals the puppet wants to save are these dead kids scattered across the location.
Well,
it also
yeah.
means that William is right. The puppet can't save them. At least, not in the way we thought. I know what you're thinking. How could these 5 kids possess their respective animatronics if they weren't stuffed into them like the original MCI victims? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Because this isn't the first time an animatronic was possessed without a kid stuffed into it. The marionette is shown to have been possessed without Charlotte Emily being stuffed into it, and it's likely it didn't even come in contact with her. Possession doesn't require stuffing. And I think this is exactly what happened to the DCI kids. The puppet couldn't save them by tying them to the suits, but they managed to do it themselves. One of the DCI corpses is even right next to Toy Bonnie. This explains how all 4 toy animatronics have renders showing them with silver eyes.
Oh! That's a
Next
great,
to Toy
hold
Bonnie.
on.
This explains how all 4 toy animatronics have renders showing them with silver.
Okay. Now, I know this conflicts with what I just said about how the toy animatronics are not haunted, or most likely are not haunted, and they're just run by AI. This may shake my opinion that the toy animatronics weren't haunted, but we'll have to keep going to see.
Silver eyes, why they act weird during the night segments, and of course, why they were scrapped at the end of FNAF 2.
Robots scrapped. Freddy Fazbear's is closing. After being open only a few short weeks, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is closing its doors. The new animatronics will be scrapped due to possible malfunctions. However, the original characters are being kept in hopes of a possible reorganization of the company. It's a minor setback. We are confident that we will reopen someday, even if it is with a much smaller budget. CEO Fazbear Ant.
Yeah, so that's telling you that when the FNAF 2 location closed down, they repurposed the withered animatronics and repaired them, which are the same ones you see in the FNAF 1 location.
Why animatronics were scrapped at the end of FNAF 2 was due to the bite of 87. But thanks to new information from the week before, an interactive novel that's a direct prequel to FNAF 1, we know that the most likely culprit for the bite was Withered Foxy.
Exactly. If you haven't seen our other WitheredCircle Theory reaction, it was all about who did the bite of 87, and came to the conclusion that Withered Foxy is the most likely candidate, and that lines up with the Faz facts that we have established ourselves. So it's very weird that the toy animatronics were scrapped.
This makes sense with the context from FNAF 2 and 1, and I go more in depth on it in the video on screen right now.
Yes.
But to put it simply, after the bite, employees were told to use flashlights to protect themselves, and the only animatronic this trick fully works on in FNAF 2 is Withered Foxy. Phone Guy is also very suspicious of Foxy throughout both the week before and FNAF 1. So, if it wasn't the bite that got the toy scrapped, what was it? That's right, the DCI. If the toy started showing signs of possession in the time the FNAF 2 pizzeria was open, it would make sense that Fazbear would want to scrap them. After all, it's highly unlikely anyone other than William and Henry knew the truth about Remnant and Souls. These possible malfunctions were what the first night guard reported while he was working at the location.
Okay, this is getting into some territory where I have my fingers in pretty deep, not gonna lie. We'll play the video. I'll say my thoughts after.
That being said, no new system is without its kinks. You're only the second guard to work at that location. The first guy finished his week but complained about conditions. We switched him over to the day shift. So, hey, look at you, right? Mainly he expressed concern that certain characters seemed to move around at night and even attempted to get into his office. Now, from what we know, that should be impossible. That restaurant should be the safest place on Earth.
The bite of 87 wouldn't be a possible malfunction, but something minor, like the glitches the toys experienced during the night shifts, would definitely count. We also know that after the toys were scrapped, their casings eventually fell into the hands of the Fazbear's Fright team, who put them in a box in FNAF 3's office. On the topic of FNAF 3, more evidence for the toy animatronics being possessed is the appearance of Phantom Mangle and Phantom Balloon Boy in the game.
Okay, so hold on. So we're saying that there were 5 kids missing for the MCI. There's 5 kids. dead for the DCI. And there's Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, Mangle. And then I guess the fifth one you could say is Balloon Boy? So we're saying Balloon Boy's haunted by a child? Hold on, this theory has actually racked my brain. Continue.
It's heavily implied that FNAF 3's phantoms aren't just hallucinations, but rather something that Springtrap can actually control. It would make sense for all these phantoms, these ghosts, to come from the remnants of his past victims. But here's the real question. When did the DCI happen? When was it that these kids died? And why are they never mentioned ever again after this event?
Yeah, that's true, because we have the names of the first 5 that died, like the MCI of the originals, right? And if there were another set, why didn't we ever get the names or even talk about those ones past FNAF 2? Like, it was never brought up again.
Well, at first, the answer seems clear. The DCI have to die sometime during FNAF 2, as suggested by this line from Phone Guy on Night 4.
Okay, so
Night 4. Okay.
just to update you, there's been somewhat of an investigation going on. Fazbear Entertainment denies any wrongdoing. These things happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, though, try to avoid eye contact with any of the animatronics side if you can. Someone may have tampered with their facial recognition systems. We're not sure.
That line right there. Okay, this is what I was referencing when I said that I have a lot of knowledge in this space, because that line right there tells me that someone tampered with their facial recognition software. Why would you tamper with facial recognition system if you didn't want your face recognized? Right? It's pretty self-explanatory. So my thing was that Purple Guy, for some reason, was working the night shift at FNAF 2, complained about conditions. The conditions he complained about were the animatronics trying to get into his office, so that's why he went to the day shift. And we can actually see in the FNAF 2 minigames that Purple Guy is walking around during the day, right, with a badge. So that, again, could confirm that he was the original night guard that got switched to the day shift. Now, the day shift guard, when the children go missing the first time, like when there's a little bit of rumors going around, Phone Guy says, like, oh, yeah, our day shift guard reported nothing happening, right? But it's the day shift guard that was doing the things, right? So of course he's going to say everything's fine, nothing was happening. And then they let him go. And then it's again confirmed by another Phone Guy call saying that, yeah, the day shift just became available. And then he says a bunch of other stuff. And he says, like, we can't let in anyone, especially no previous employees, heavily alluding to the former day shift guard. Now, I'm intrigued because there may possibly be 2 different incidents here.
This investigation lines up with what the DCI would result in. But how can the toys be possessed if the DCI only die around Night 4? Surely that doesn't make sense.
That's also a good point.
Right? Well, let's rewind to Night 1, and what Phone Guy says about the first guard to work at the 1987 location. Phone Guy states that this night guard saw the animatronics move around and reported it to the company, who moved him to the day shift. Doesn't this sound awfully familiar? It's generally agreed on that William Afton, the purple guy, is the first night guard. It explains how he has a gold security badge and saved them, and why the toy's facial recognition system stopped working after his stay at the location.
Beautifully said, Withered Circle. You earn another Faz point.
There's also this line from Night 5 that backs this up even more.
Hey, keep a close eye on things tonight, okay? From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know, especially concerning any previous employees.
So,
man, I should really
William
just let him
killed the DCI
talk,
kids
and then I
during
can
his
just
stay
sit
as a
back
night
and be
guard.
like, yep.
It makes sense why the animatronics start acting up, and why they turn on him and start trying to attack him while he's in the office. William was 100% confident that these dead kids wouldn't possess the toys, but he was proven wrong almost immediately. But why? Why would William kill these kids if he didn't want them to possess the toy animatronics? Well, I think the answer is quite simple. The missing children incident was done by William not just as a jab at his partner Henry Emily, but also to test the laws of possession. If he killed kids without stuffing them, they wouldn't possess anything, right? He was so confident in this that he assured the puppet and Withered Freddy that you can't save them.
Okay, so I like how usually near the end of Withered Circle's theories, that's where the speculation starts. But okay.
Even the sprites themselves are called "you can't" in the source code, because Afton isn't fully aware of how possession works yet. This is why he's so rattled when the animatronics move on their own during the night shift. He was fully confident that they wouldn't possess any of the characters.
So I guess my biggest question now is, like, if that is true, and the murders happened before the events of FNAF 2, right, where he was still working the night shift, it would make sense for him to freak out and be like, hey, these toy animatronics are not supposed to be moving, which then would relate to the phone guy phone call night 1 being like, yeah, the first guy complained about conditions and how the animatronics move around at night, which should be impossible, which leads me to believe that, like, yeah, no, they shouldn't be walking around in the first place. The only reason why they would be walking around is if they're haunted. That makes sense. Okay, sure. To be fair, how it works in the real world is you report your missing kid, right? And who you call, like, the police or whoever, I'm not really sure 100% how it works. But they say, like, okay, wait 24 hours because they could have went somewhere without telling you, like they might be back, right? And if they don't show up, I believe it might actually be 48 hours. Hold on, let me actually Google this. We're live crafting here. All right. How long do the... Actually, I don't want that on my search history. Never mind. No, we're not doing that. Anyway, I believe it's like 24 to 48 hours where it's like, okay, yeah, this person still hasn't shown up. And then they put through a report. They have people go and investigate. So that would actually make sense.
The investigation that happens later on is started when officials understand that the kids that went missing in the area all vanished around Freddy's. It's possible Fazbear Entertainment hid the bodies of the DCI, since William just left them lying around in the pizzeria. This is one of the many reasons I think the DCI has to be real, and not just the corpses of the MCI kids. Additionally, the shape of their sprites is completely different, with the DCI sprites being lankier and generally larger than those of the MCI. The upcoming FNAF 2 movie will almost definitely answer this debate, and it's looking good for us DCI truthers, since the trailer shows a group of paranormal investigators breaking into Freddy's and getting killed off. It's likely these kids are actually teenagers breaking into the 1987 Freddy's after hours.
But they do say in the trailer that one kid died there, and that's why they were investigating it. Not necessarily that the place was haunted with a bunch of spirits. They only know of one.
I think the "you can't" from the source code is a huge piece of evidence for the dead children incident being an actual event in universe and not just an extraction of the MCI corpses.
That is what you use the evidence you teased on? That? It's like a cherry on top of on a milkshake, right? Like, I'm there to drink the milkshake. The cherry's there. The cherry could be nice, but it's completely unnecessary and not needed. It looks good. Doesn't really make the milkshake taste any better, you know?
It proves that William is referring to the dead kids in his kill screen, and ties it all back to the puppet's save them text.
Alright, so that was WitheredCircle's fantastic theory on FNAF 2 and whether there were 2 missing children's incidents, or if there was only one. So again, DCI versus MCI, whereas MCI was originally what I thought was the only thing that happened, right? So I was a long-time believer of there only being 5 missing children. After all, those 5 keep, reoccurring with gravestones, the names, they're brought up in multiple forms of media, as in like the books, the movie, all that sort of thing. So it seemed like very compact, like, yeah, there was only 5. But after going over this theory and after analyzing the FNAF 2 facts for myself in the past few days, there's a lot of evidence, and I'm starting to believe that, yeah, there 100% has to be a DCI and an MCI. Like, for 10 kids to be murdered total in this franchise, like, 100%. 11 if you count Charlotte, Emily, or Charlie in the puppet, right? So 11 children. And honestly, there may be even more that we didn't even hear about, right? Like, you still have the shadow animatronics from FNAF 2 that we're going to actually react to a theory about here pretty soon about that. And it's just wild. So, like I do with all my theory reactions, I rate it on 2 different scales. One is for overall, does the theory actually make sense in the grand scheme of things? Does it fit the story? And then I rate it on the whole, was the evidence sufficient? And did it make sense to support the theory? Overall, is this a good theory? Yes. Yes, it was. I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Did the evidence accurately back up this theory? I think I would give this, I would honestly give it a 7 out of 10, right? I think it was pretty good. The thing is, though, using the game files to prove evidence, I don't think that's what you did here, Withered Circle. I think what happened was you saw in the game files that one of the files was named You Can't, and then that kind of spawned a bunch of, brainwaves of like, wait, hold on a second, guys. Maybe we're looking at this all wrong. Maybe it is actually, 2 different events. And I think that's what happened. I don't necessarily think that specific example is the one piece of evidence that brings it all together. No, like I honestly think you could have just looked at the Save the Mini games and, the other FNAF 2 mini games and the FNAF 2 phone calls, and just from that deducted that, oh yeah, no, this had to be 2 separate incidents. I guess I'll see you in whatever FNAF content you find me in next. Goodbye.